We will start with an activity. Let's scan this QR code. You are very good at it. I saw 101 responses in the last one. Let's beat that now. Is everybody facing the same problem? Then it is not a problem to them. This is how I saw the question paper. Usually, I had to select between A, B, C, and some of these things, and I would choose one of them. Sometimes I got through as well. And this is how maybe a lot of our users look at their surveys as well. So that's the point that I want to start with, which is we are very needed at this moment, more than ever. I'm going to divide my talk into 3 parts. The first part being around making your seat, which is very solid. Do you have a solid seat which you can take somewhere? The second is taking the seat to the table, that elusive table that we are talking about. We have talked about it since morning. Let's see what it is all about once again with a different perspective. And then staying put there. How do we manage to sit on that table? So making the seat solid. And this talk is oriented more towards researchers who are in product companies. Others can also learn from it, but it's more targeted towards that scenario. So first and foremost, let's not worry about the imposter syndrome. Let's not question ourselves. Are we needed? Is research needed? It is needed. Period. This is the proof of it. So please stop questioning your relevance and spend that time constructively on working on your competence. And we'll now spend a few pointers on competence, which I'm calling it, I thought of going deeper into most of them, but since this morning I've heard a lot of conversation around data, business data especially. These are my quotes in Devil's Horns, which are like, you know what, the bar was really low earlier. It is just that the bar is going up and we need to go up as well. Anybody could become a researcher at some point of time. That was also not correct. So we are reaching to a point where we will now bring in competencies which are equivalent to the ones that are really needed in the organization. And that would include all of these things, by the way. We did benchmarking earlier, we did usability, we did surveys, quantitative, qualitative research, great, but we also need to look at data science. We really need to make them our friends. We need to talk to business metrics. We need to understand them. We spent a lot of time with EBITDA today. I love that. AI is a tool, is something that we need to use. And neuroscience. And when I talk about neuroscience, let me bring this guy up on the stage. He's Professor Paul Zak. He's like a superstar neuroscience, Hollywoodish researcher. And he has made this company called Immersion. Have a look at it. His claim and his company, what it does is it understands how people are immersed in a particular activity. So for example, if your users are going through an app, it can actually detect how immersed they are, when were they immersed, and what were the peak moments across the journey, and does it make an impact on how the journey happens, related to how you're asking the questions, and you'll get a very interesting thing around what people really answer, versus what they are physiologically, neurologically feeling. So interesting guy, look at his work. He's written 2 books as well. Another important thing about craft, and I can't lay more emphasis on that, is storytelling. That's one area which I think wasn't discussed in detail today, so I might as well spend 5 minutes on it. And so the quote there is that the only thing that can beat data is storytelling. And that only thing that beats storytelling is data plus storytelling. So what if we can do both? So I was trying to think of a metaphor around this data, insights from our field, and then what happens if we put a storytelling lens on top of it. And I came up with this metaphor, and see how it makes sense for you. It's a video.
And The masters of the universe. I am Adam, Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of Grayskull, I have the power!" Cringer became the mighty Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe.
Thank you for indulging me and letting me dive into my childhood. So, data is toothless without the mantra of storytelling. Insights are also toothless without the mantra of storytelling. Bring it all together and you become the masters of the user research. These are 10 tenets that I believe and I've synthesized over a few years which make a good story. I'll just quickly spend 2 minutes on it and then talk about the two folks here as well. Promises are made at the start. When you're telling a good story, a promise, the title, the first slide has to make a promise and it has to stand by it towards the end. The premise is set miserly. You just don't throw details everywhere. You're very specific about what you're throwing or telling people. Everything has to make sense towards the end. The protagonist is vulnerable and honest. The user that you're talking about has to come across as honest. Think about all the movies that you have seen and how the protagonist comes across. The stakes are high. Why am I even in this presentation? Why am I even in this place to hear you if the stakes are not high? So the stakes need to be high. Present it like that. Make sure that everybody understands that the research is being reported in a way that the stakes are very high, and that's the reason why we are doing it in the first place. There's a constant play of tension and release. There's a problem, solution, tension, release. The circle of expectation is breached, not broken. If you confuse the people at the end, you bring an insight which they were there but could not imagine, this is where they love it most. So you bring it to the place where they could just see it but could not see. Versus tell them something opposite. It's difficult to take something opposite. That will need a lot of taking in. Promises are fulfilled. What you promised at the start needs to be fulfilled by the end. The storyteller cares deeply. If you as a researcher are not presenting your story with full heart, with full passion, with full rigor, why should anybody listen to it? So you need to be extremely passionate about what you're speaking. The purpose defines the medium. We can choose different mediums as needed for the kind of audience that we have and also for the purpose that we need to sort. These are two people that you can look up at. Karen, she looks at emotions and storytelling, and J.P. Phillips is a guy who looks at neuroscience and storytelling. So when you tell a story, what impact does it make over the audience at what particular time? I think for a researcher, storytelling is a very, very important attribute to look at. One of the most important bits of storytelling, and we have heard a lot around insights, crafting of insight is an art, and you learn it over a period of time, and you really enjoy the process if you like research. Insights should be actionable. I keep hearing that. Insights need to be actionable. Yeah, obviously. But what is actionable? How would it become actionable? Or why should it be actionable? They'll become actionable if they are sharp, they are provocative, they are quotable. Somebody quotes you after you have said it. It's specific, it's clear, and it's subject backed. You know your subject. The topic that you're researching on is clear to you. I'll give you a short example of it. Imagine this is a research observation / insight coming from field where you're looking at a journey of buying an insurance for customers, and the customer is being asked for putting in PAN details on, say, page number 2. The researcher reports users don't like entering PAN details early in the journey, leading to drop-off. Fair? Is it sharp? Is it provocative? Quotable? So, no. Not really. Let's look at this statement now. Asking for PAN details at step 2 by 7 is a trust breaker. We have used a word which is trust, heavy word, a little sharper. Is it still sharp enough? Maybe no. Provocative? Maybe a little. Specific? Yes. Second step makes sense. Now let's look at this one. The user now understood why the PAN detail, the researcher understood why the PAN details were asked in the first place. And those were asked so that the next parts of the journey or the offer in the 4th part or 5th part would be very specific and customized. This was missing in the researcher's insight earlier, and this is very important. Before we give an insight, we need to understand why a little deeper in terms of the subject as well. Now look at this insight, which says that lack of communication about usage of PAN details early in the journey is feeding mistrust and multiplying drop-offs. Is it getting more media? A good example of an insight is that it should also be a good design brief by itself. And if I were to twist this to a design brief now and make it a little more usable or actionable, it'll be honest communication about advantage of providing PAN details early in the journey can improve drop-offs. A positive way to hand it over to the designers or the product team to take it from there. Deliverables, your deliverables that we make, our deliverables that we make need to have a timeless quality about them. While trying to find out imagery for this presentation, I was very happy to see this work from 10 years back in our research team. It was immensely readable even now. It was a report on how hoteliers check in. And after 10 years, each of these insights still made sense. The visuals were attractive. The text was very readable, didn't feel old at all. And I felt that this is what we do. We create deliverables which last, which was because they have quality and a lot of effort has been put into them. Another important feature that we need to have is ingenuity, which means that we need to change ourselves according to the kind of project we have been brought in. Every project will not go the standard way. Also, we need to bring in some play. Asking direct questions will get direct answers. Asking questions through play or gamifying the experience for the users can take you to places which are not very, very obvious. People call them icebreakers. I don't think so. They are very important tools to understand how people connect with you on an ephemeral level and not just as an interviewer and interviewee. One of the researchers is here as well, Rishi. So that was the first part, mostly orienting towards folks who are starting their journey in research. Now you have started your journey, you have established yourself as an important, skilled researcher. How do you now push the boundaries and make research heard in the organization? This is the second part. We need to understand that every company has a religion. I have changed 8 companies, maybe 9. That's not nothing great, but I've understood this, that every company will have its own processes, will have its own limitations. They have tech stack limitations, they have business limitations, they have brand limitations. Some companies can't do this versus that, etc. Let's be cognizant about it. When we present our findings, we should know a little more about our own company and how they have reached there. This was talked earlier in the day also. You just can't do enough of it. If you have a good quality research report, you have to spread across the organization like crazy. Whatever it takes, just keep doing it till everybody gets to see your report. Another very, very important thing, which is immersive deliverables. Now you have gotten heard. People are listening to you. How do you really bring them in? the workshops that the researchers will create. The poster below is from People Research Team Philips. And we used to have almost a room which would go around with one single poster of a customer journey. And the idea was to take everybody standing and moving across while you explain the customer journey and the pain points. The immersion that people had over this walk was immense. And that is the kind of input we should have. We ourselves use animations to show our research. We use whatever we can. It should look attractive. Why not? And especially if we have designers in the background, it has to look attractive also. I don't think there's anything wrong with making it attractive and good looking to capture attention. This has been talked before as well, and that's the problem of coming in towards the evening. Different deliverables need different audience. Obviously, the CEO doesn't need the same report as you are going to send to the developers, and I'll not harp much into it. But I'm very, very surprised to see that researchers are not able to present to senior stakeholders. And this has to happen. We have to learn it, we have to do it, we have to just manage to be able to tell everything in 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And I'm going to end before time because I can articulate things in a faster way. So this is what we also need to understand. Articulation, quick articulation, and communicating it. This is something that I really want to push in, especially for people coming into this profession, is let's not be the weak researcher in the organization, the guys who are quiet, who go out in the field. Yes, you can be all that. Of course, that is your personal choice and quality. But when you need to be aggressive, please wear the gloves. Please come to a meeting with a glove when you're meeting with the PM, with senior stakeholders, where you know that there could be aggression. We can also be aggressive. And we have the wherewithal, we have the data, we have so much with us that gives us the right to be extremely aggressive if it needs to be. Because without that, a lot of things won't happen. This has been talked about again before, but I would reiterate it, is the fact that we need to build in the process of completing the thing. We give a research and we are off to another project. And by the time you will think about, this was what happened to that report, you will not really find good answers. So you need to build into the next steps very clearly. When you show the last slide of your presentation, make it very clear that you will be coming back on this date to ask what happened. That is again your right, well within your professional limits, to ask for what happened with my research. The company has invested. I need to have the answers. Okay, we come to the last part. So we have pushed research in the organization. We have been able to establish ourselves and we have been given the seat. Now we should not leave it. It's not easy. So my first advice is cannibalize, which is, and I heard somebody say it as well in the morning, I forget who, but we have these other teams as well. We have, sometimes it's a consumer experience team, sometimes a market research team, sometimes there's CX, mix of these different teams. Try to finally own them. Have an ambition to own the whole of it. Why not? Why can't we do market research as well? We'll do it much better, right? So let's not limit our ambition and think that we will be a part of design, or we'll just remain in design, or we'll remain in this particular function. We will be the insights team. Spotify does that already. We will be the user centricity team. I'll be the chief customer officer. I need a CXO title. If there's no ambition, there'll be no result. So I'm urging all the young researchers coming into this field to really have that ambition and get these titles for yourself. Create org-wise rituals. There are companies which do it. They have org-wise rituals, which is like a user's day, user centricity day, where the whole organization just thinks about the user for a day or 2 or 3, whatever. The exhibits which are set, do that in your organization. Make out time to do that. Send out a newsletter across the organization. Nobody has asked you to do it, but you do it. This has been spoken enough, so I won't go too deep into it. But again, can't lay more emphasis on that. This is so important. We need to understand EBITDA. We need to understand CM1, CM2. We need to understand top line, bottom line, all of these numbers very well. Especially if you are a leader in research and you're sitting on that table where everybody just speaks this language. How can you not speak the language? So you will have to understand and speak and make them understand your research in this language. They will understand. There is no way that they will not understand. But you will have to understand. This is like, somebody speaking Chinese versus somebody in Portuguese. Kaise hoga? So you will have to understand Chinese a little. Thoda sa Mandarin seekhna padega. This is also which we really need to do. I feel we don't do it enough. And it's like the company doesn't understand user research. But do you understand business? Do you really understand the mind of a CEO who is coming in from morning to evening? What is he doing? What would he be thinking when he enters that room for your 15-minute presentation? Are you thinking all that? If not, you have to think. You think of HR, you think of finance, you think of all of these functions. If you really want the seat on the table to remain there. Otherwise, the seat will go at some particular time. Last but not the least, there's one video which I'll show you and then we'll talk about it. This is a true video of clips of rocket launches across a few countries. We'll see that video and then we'll talk about it.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 엔진 점화, 26, 두리오가 발사되었습니다.
Three, two, one, go! Yeah!
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage Vulcain. Allumage des EAP. Et décollage.
Minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, plus 1, plus 5 seconds.
Top normal. P1 tracking. P3 tracking. P2 tracking.
PSLV C50. So like it or not, the world is obsessed with this symbol now, which is growth. It is a pain in the ass, but that's how it is. Everything is being looked upon from the lens of this rocket. Startups, rocket, growth, rocket, everything is impact and growth. We can't evade it, so let's embrace it. As researchers, we need to show our growth, which means what happened because of us in this organization, month on month, year on year, what has grown, what has been our impact. That was the presentation. You can catch me at these different places. As I told earlier, I run an improv collective as well, and I'm taking a workshop tomorrow, so if you have time, join, but only if you're not doing these workshops. Happy to connect towards the evening as well. Thank you. Real world problem, humiliate them. In a larger forum, just humiliate them. Just tell them that this is what I had told you earlier, and this is what you still went ahead and did, and this is the data again. So, these are all political questions, how far we have got the seat, how deep we have the seat, but I would not miss this. I would not leave this without a fight. So, yeah. Yeah, please. Somebody needs to give them a mic.
Okay, so if you're within the organization, you can still push your outcomes and talk to PMs and talk to business people and try to ensure that, you're able to show that impact. But when you're on the agency side, more often than not, whatever inputs you've given to the client, where it goes, how it's being used, and things don't come back, right? So how do you push clients to ensure that they keep investing in research and our impact, we are able to trace it back? So that's always been a gap between that.
Sure. Not the best of answers because I've never really been on the side of the agency. Uday might be the best person in the room to answer that. Though I feel that even if as an agency, you have it built in your process to have a touchback. If it's a part of your timeline that, whenever the development ends, we'll come at this phase and we'll look at what has happened. I give it for free for the first time, for example. The next time I'll charge you. And get that time to really come back and see, because I agree with you, that's what happens. Once you're done, you're just done, you're off. Uday, do you have a better answer to that? How would you come back as an agency to see if your insights were used properly in the company or not?
I think one way we do it is build long-term relationships. I always tell my peers in the industry and also my clients that don't treat research as a project, treat it as a culture.
Right.
And because even the answers you find in one project are not permanent insights. They can change because people change, you change, and therefore you need to keep going back and you need to keep interpreting it in the new light. So they finish one project and sometimes they process it inside and they come back and ask us. In fact, there have been many instances when they've come to us with projects done with other vendors. They'll say, I have 30 projects, 30 reports, tell us what we know. And honestly, a lot of times people change within organizations. They don't own the reports that were managed by other people. And the only people who know it are us. So we position ourselves as people who have long-term knowledge of the work done in the past by us. And we are open to synthesizing other work that they have done to see what knowledge is available and where the knowledge gaps are. So we become their trusted companions in interpretation and obsolescence of knowledge.
Yeah, Yeah. She has a question.
Okay. My question is, a lot of companies unfortunately have a lot of hierarchy in place. So how do employees, I can't think of a better word to say, but how do employees who are in the lower end of the food chain, when their design leadership doesn't advocate for research, how do we make a seat when we don't even have a chair?
First, make as much noise as you can.
Okay.
And even if it doesn't happen then reach out to the good design leaders around and see. Because there's no point in being there if you're not being heard completely. You will try up to a point. At the end of the day, it's not our own company. So try the best you can. As I said, try a few things. Try the cultural things like celebrating research through user days, newsletters, making them understand what you do, good high quality deliverables. And even if all of this is not cutting ice with them, chhod do. Yes, please.
But I realized that the real credit should go to the client who pays me. And therefore, in fact, more recently, I don't even make presentations. I train the client to make the presentation and hog the credit. So later, to maintain the same passion and be able to answer the same questions, they need me in the wings also.
So these are real world strategies.
So this is from the perspective of what she asked and from the perspective of a graduating student, perhaps, who's done a lot of design research, is interested. So how do they find or vet a company that's conducive to a place where they are able to take a seat and stay there? Yeah.
I've changed 8 companies. Just before tea by Asma, and how she asks questions after the interview. I think that's a very, very critical thing to do. Asking on the telephonic conversations earlier with the HR, why do you need these people? That these 2 parts would give you a good assessment of what they're looking for. Yeah. And you're a researcher, so you will, while talking to your interviewer, you will realize that what kind of person is hiring you. Thank you. That was my time. Thank you so much.